Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
And it's 5:06. It's Monday morning, and we're plowing through the month of November already. Good Lord Almighty. It's the 13th day of November. It's like mid-November. We can literally say it's mid-November now. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's like we are in a time warp. Thanksgiving is literally a week away-ish. Coming up at 6:35, Alicia Brand out of Loudoun County will give us the latest out of that dysfunctional school system. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. At 7:35, speaking of Loudoun's dysfunctional school system, Nick Minnock is trying to get to the bottom of it with their superintendent. Keeps evading him. We'll talk to Nick at 7:35. 8:05, Adam Gillette. He is with the accuracy in media. And at 8:15, Trevor Maddich about yesterday's near miss by the Washington Commanders. I don't know what to say about the Commanders, Julie Gunlock. They beat the spread, but apparently that doesn't count in the standings. I mean, it counts in my personal standings, but they did okay. How are you, Julie? Did you have a good weekend?
I'm good. Yes, it was very nice. How about you?
It was okay. It was a better weekend than Tim Scott, unfortunately. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, who it's hard to find anyone to say a bad thing about him. He's a nice guy. Everyone likes him. And he ran a very classy campaign, but I'm saying it in the past tense because he announced yesterday on Trey Gowdy's show on Fox News Channel that his campaign is now in suspension. Here's cut one, Professor Tim Scott yesterday.
If you ever want to love your country more, run for president. Traveling this country, meeting people has been one of the most fantastic experiences of my entire life. I love America more today than I did on May 22nd. But when I go back to Iowa, it will not be as a presidential candidate. I am suspending my campaign. I think the voters who are the most remarkable people on the planet have been really clear that they're telling me not now, Tim. I don't think they're saying, Trey, no, but I do think they're saying not now. And so I'm going to respect the voters, and I'm going to hold on and keep working really hard and look forward to another opportunity.
He also went on to say the best way for me to be helpful is to not weigh in at this time, which I think is kind of fun. He was asked if he would consider being a running mate, and he said being vice president has never been on my to-do list, which is not a no. And, it's one of those things, Julie, where I had said from the beginning that he's one of the handful of candidates who sort of appeal to the faith-based family values, religious-minded voters, I think, in Iowa. There always does seem to be one candidate that emerges like that. Governor Huckabee was certainly that candidate. Rick Santorum was that candidate. Pence would have been that candidate, but he dropped out.
Yes.
But I mean, the bottom line is there's one dominant candidate, Donald Trump, who continues to lead the polls now by upwards to 40 points. And one must wonder why pretty much everybody on that debate stage last week doesn't look in the mirror and ask themselves the same questions Tim Scott has just asked himself.
Yeah, and if this weekend, I know we'll probably talk about this later, if you saw Biden, sort of aimlessly, wandering around, I think
the Veterans Day memorial.
The Veterans Day event, I think some people are saying, can we just all agree on one candidate and focus on Biden? Yeah. Because it's scary. And obviously our world is not in a great place right now. But on Tim Scott, boy, he's just such a good man. He's such a gracious man. He has such a message of positivity and pro-Americanism, and that'll be missed. He really is a wonderful man, and he would be a great vice president. I know it's not on his dance card, but he would be a great vice president.
He also said, when he announced his candidacy, he said he's stunned at the hunger for something positive as long as it's anchored in conservatism and as long as you have a backbone. But he tried to utilize this positive, uplifting conservative message throughout the entire campaign. And I mentioned this last week. I had no idea. I thought Tim Scott was going to be in there at least until the Iowa caucuses. But I had mentioned, is he too nice to be a Republican of stature right now in this country. And I'm not, when I say things like that, I'm not saying Donald Trump isn't nice or Ron DeSantis isn't nice or what have you. But I guess by nice, I mean sort of cordial and well, I'll put it this way. Joe Biden isn't nice. Joe Biden calls us fascists. Joe Biden says that we're a threat to this country. Joe Biden, for the last 50 years of his political career, has been a blindly aggressive and mean-spirited partisan. And after McCain and Romney and Dole and even to a certain extent George W. Bush, there was something so cathartic for Republican voters to see Donald Trump fight back, not just matching the level of negative attack that we Republicans relentlessly had to endure, but actually give it back to them times 10. And as much as people don't like mean tweets or, this or that and Trump yelling and using profanity, it's like, yeah, but if it's either that or rolling over like Mitt Romney and just saying, well, I disagree with my good friend from, no. This isn't about disagreeing with your good friends. This is about sticking up for yourself. And I just don't know if Tim Scott had that in him. And I think that we're in a different mood right now.
There were a couple incidents with Tim Scott talking to the media, and he was pretty aggressive. I don't think that was necessarily his natural state, unlike Trump or like Carrie Lake or one of these people. But he did rise to the occasion. We saw that too with Kevin McCarthy when there would be those sort of press gatherings out in the rotunda. He was aggressive, and it really surprised me, especially since McCarthy kind of comes from, I would say the establishment much more than some of these guys. So I think the Republican Party and politicians in the Republican Party have really learned a lesson that you are not going to attract voters if you don't stand up and push back on the media narrative and on the Democratic narrative that we're all a bunch of fascists. So I was surprised by Tim Scott actually, being what you describe as the kind of Republican people like. I think he was a few times. I think he could have done it.
Yeah. There was obviously another aspect of Tim Scott's participation in the presidential campaign, and that is he was the lone African-American candidate, which you will see in every headline from the mainstream media. The Republicans' sole African-American candidate drops out. I'm sorry, how many African-American candidates do the Democrats have right now?
Yeah.
None. And if a black candidate wanted to run for a Democrat nomination, they'd be squeezed out because you got to make room for the oldest, whitest guy they could find, Joe Biden. And last time around, I'm pretty sure there was just one African-American candidate, Kamala Harris. There was another, also in the Politico write-up, they said, the Republicans' lone black senator. The Democrats have only one black. Well, before LaFonza Butler, who was really a senator from Maryland and was appointed and wasn't actually elected in California. They got Raphael Warnock. Yep. Oh, Cory Booker.
Oh, that's right.
Let's not forget Cory Booker.
Yeah, the guy who wants to take your gas stove. That's actually his greatest legislative accomplishment at the moment.
Setting aside his race, though, his story as a young black man growing up in rural poverty or as a young white man growing up in rural poverty, it's a great story. Yeah. And it makes you feel good about this country. And he,
And it makes the left hate him.
Yes, even more, because he's black and he's off the reservation. He's not voting the way he's supposed to. Yes. All right, so what does this mean to the president? Does it even make a difference? What did the other candidates say? And who will be the next one to go down and face the inevitable? We'll discuss all those things in a moment. But first, it's 5:15. WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten and the hit.
WMAL. Making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Need a new roof? Honor, respect, and trust your home with Valor. Visit valorhome.com.
Vivek Ramaswamy took to social media, the X platform, and said, Tim Scott strikes me as a good dude. I gave Senator Scott a congratulatory fist bump on stage when the other South Carolinian shamelessly copied exactly what he said. That's so Vivek congratulating Tim Scott on his campaign has to take a slam at Nikki Haley. And he posted a picture of that, fist bump. Wishing Tim all the best back in the U.S. Senate. I'm hopeful we can convince him that more Ukraine aid is an awful idea for America. Looked like he was slowly coming around last week. I was glad to see it. So Vivek Ramaswamy's congratulations, Tim Scott, is really just sort of a, political statement of sorts. But
he can't help himself.
He is running for
indeed.
President. Rod DeSantis. Tim Scott is a strong conservative with bold ideas about how to get our country back on track. I respect his courage to run this campaign and thank him for his service to America in the U.S. Senate. Look forward to Tim continuing to be a leader in our party for years to come. Nikki Haley said Tim Scott is a good man of faith and an inspiration to so many. The Republican primary was made better by his participation in it. South Carolina is blessed to continue to have him as our senator. I'm still waiting for Asa Hutchinson's statement. See what his Asa fever is going to be like. It's funny to sort of, okay, now where do his votes go? He didn't really have any votes.
Did you see the DNC? Their statement on the Tim Scott. They're just so rude. There wasn't much. This is their official statement from the DNC. There wasn't much to remember about Tim Scott's sad, lackluster campaign that lit millions of dollars on fire, not even to make it to Iowa. We thank him for spending his campaign reminding Americans that from top to bottom, this GOP primary field is the most extreme in history. They're so boring. Hell-bent on passing a national abortion ban and gutting Social Security and Medicare. We won't miss him, but we know his constituents must be glad to know he's one less excuse for the senator to miss yet another vote. How nice of them. So magnanimous.
Well, at least they're consistent. The first half of that sounded like it could have been Trump's statement. Actually, I don't know if
most
Trump...
extreme in history. Tim Scott.
Yeah, that part. Maybe
Tim
not.
Scott, most extreme in history. Okay, got it.
Chris Christie should be next, right? I mean, what's the point of Chris Christie's campaign?
Well, I said that from the beginning.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, so
this doesn't really make the dynamic, but trying to analyze, like I was about to say, trying to analyze where his votes are going to go and how this affects the rest of the field and all that. I mean, he was barely in it at this point anyway.
Sure.
But also it seems sort of fruitful in general because it just seems so baked in the cake, Julie, that Trump is going to get the nomination because he's just dominating as a former president and someone who has the largest, most loyal voting base. I don't see anything on the horizon that might change that, and every debate that we have sort of solidifies that.
Yeah. And then seeing him, he showed up at the mixed martial arts
UFC in Madison Square Garden.
And boy, did they go crazy for him. They went, look, I want you to know that I blame the girlfriend. I think Tim was like, I'm out of here. I've got better things to do. He's got his girlfriend. He's got his great life.
Yeah, everyone's like, you don't have a wife. You're not. He says, well, I have a girlfriend. I was like, really? Who's your girlfriend? Oh, yeah, we've been dating for a year. But finally, she shows up. Finally, Mindy is revealed to the world.
She's lovely. Yeah.
Lovely young woman dating Tim Scott. He brings her out on stage in Miami, and then he ends his campain. You see, this is women ruin everything.
No, he's like, I have better things to do.
Bring a woman into the mix, and then she's
Mindy and Tim Scott are going to go and have a great time. And he's like, I don't have time.
You really have to go campaign? I wanted to go to the movies. Can't you never take me out to dinner anymore. You're always busy trying to get votes. Like, fine, Mindy, I'll end the campaign.
There you go. See?
Better off without a girlfriend. All right, rolling along here, we have a whole lot more coming up. But we didn't really mention Veterans Day real fast. Tony Schaefer did the parade yesterday for Veterans Day. I saw that Chris Plant went out there to root him on. I was not able to get to D.C. yesterday. I had Veterans Day weekend stuff going on in Annapolis. What was your Veterans Day observance, or did you just sort of lay low and just talk to your dad? He's a vet, that's enough.
It was a lot of baseball in our house this weekend, so we didn't do anything specific for Veterans Day, unfortunately.
That's okay. I mean, like I said, your dad's a vet. You can just call him, thank him, move on.
Certainly did that.
We were at the Navy football game.
Great.
And they won. Huge victory for Navy football on Saturday.
Nice.
But it's funny, every Navy football game, as you know, you came up to one of the games this year, is sort of a celebration of our active duty and our veterans, because there are a lot of alumni there too. But this week, it didn't even occur to me that it would just be extra special at the game, and it was. It was pretty great. They had a lot of graduating classes there that were celebrating, and there's just that extra level. But I got to say, talking to because I interact with these midshipmen all the time who are technically already in the military. They're not commissioned officers yet, or those that just graduated who I know pretty well and hang out. There's a slight change in their attitude right now because of the events in the Middle East. And we saw a horrific accident with a helicopter off the Gerald Ford in the Mediterranean, which reminds you that training exercise, especially training exercises in a war zone in the Middle East, are incredibly dangerous, and there's a risk. And they're openly talking like, wow, it looks like we're really moving toward war here. And it's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
Knowing that those who serve are looking at the events around us, looking at our leadership right now and saying, yeah, we're probably all going to war. So it just sort of makes Veterans Day
and not a great
much.
time to have a recruitment problem, retention problem.
Thank you. We're talking, Hugh had asked that question about, 600 ship Navy, and all I'm thinking is, who's going to drive the ship?
Right.
20% down on recruitment in the Navy.
I mean, you see the president. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. But you see the president wobbling around at a Veterans Day thing. This does not instill confidence in parents whose children are considering it, or the kids themselves. Who wants to be a part of that? It's very depressing.
Well, we got to continue to honor those who have served and hopefully keep speaking out and make the conditions ripe for a whole new generation who will serve, because we need them. We need them now more than ever. All right, coming up. Remember when the Miss Universe pageant decided to go 1,000% woke, go so far as to even allow men to compete for a women's beauty pageant? Well, how'd that work out? We'll give you an update. It's not looking good for the Miss Universe pageant. Next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
5:36 on this Monday after Veterans Day, but we're continuing the observation, of course. Veterans Day, 4-day weekend. Why not? Thank you for joining us here on O'Connor and Company. Coming up to that end, Veterans Day conversations, I had the opportunity to interview Jessica Lynch, the famous Jessica Lynch from 20 years ago now in the Iraq War. Her story, what happened to her, and how it involves our friends over at Fisher House, all came out in that interview. We want you to hear that. That's coming up at 6:05. At 6:35, Alicia Brand will join us. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Nick Minnock is doing his best to get answers in Loudoun County. 8:05, Adam Gillette at Accuracy and Media. And then at 8:15, Trevor Mattich on the Commanders' near miss in Seattle yesterday. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning. Great.
Good morning, Julie. Remember when there was a new owner of the Miss Universe pageant, this multi-gajillionaire out of Thailand, who is also a transgender woman? So this is a dude.
So it's a man. Yep.
It's a dude who dresses up like a woman.
Yep.
And he announced this major shift
overhaul
for the Miss Universe pageant. Here, listen.
From now on, it's going to be ran by women, owned by trans women, for all women. For all women really around the world to celebrate the power of feminism.
There you go.
That's not his accent. That's him saying "we man."
We man. We man.
He literally is like creating a new word because
well,
the word that's been around for thousands of years to describe us just isn't good enough.
To that end, in the last year, there have been 2 different transgender women who have won their respective nations' pageants to qualify in the Miss Universe pageant. So it was a whole new era there.
Yeah.
The gender fluidity is the new
the message of the Miss Universe pageant to women all around the world is men do it better.
That's right. You want a woman, even a women's beauty pageant, you need a man to do it. All right. So
that's right.
How's that working out? By the way, it costs $20 million. JKN Global Group is Ann Jukarajitip. That's the transgender activist.
Well done.
Who runs the pageant. JKN Global Group is the parent company that bought the organization for $20 million in 2022. Yesterday, JKN Global Group filed for bankruptcy in a Thai bankruptcy court. Group's petition for business rehabilitation is set for January 29th. JKN Global Group insisted they were trying to resolve a liquidity problem. Oh, see, they have their own fluid problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just being gender fluid. They also have some problems with their financial liquidity and fluidity. We confirmed, though, that Miss Universe 2023 will be held in El Salvador on November 18th, 2023. So the pageant is set for this week, and they're going ahead with it, even though they just filed for bankruptcy in a Thai court.
And you will have two trans women, so men, competing. One from the Dutch trans woman Riki Cole, and then a Miss Portugal is also a transgender woman.
So
Marina Machete.
Which
that name doesn't seem made up.
That'll cut you to the quick. We were just in Portugal. I have seen
just had to slip that in, didn't you?
Well, no. I'm slipping it in only because I have firsthand experience observing the women of Portugal. And I assure you, the women who don't have male genitalia are pretty hot.
Yeah, Marina Machete.
The only reason Ms. Machete won is because they're trying to make a statement.
That's right.
And I'm pretty sure the Dutch women are, let's face it.
Oh, Dutch women are beautiful.
Every woman on the planet, I assure you, you can find a woman representative, one woman from every country on the planet who is going to be much more poised, much more feminine, much more capable, and much prettier.
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude here, but why
than
not?
Any man.
These people, these men who won, not pretty. Not pretty.
Well, everyone
especially
has
the one from
a certain level of beauty in their heart. Yeah, no, the Dutch woman is a problem. The man, the dude.
The teeth, my God.
So is this a question of go woke, go broke, or is this just a question of, other pressures on the business that came to bear and they're just trying to restructure their debt?
Does the Miss Universe pageant, I know that Miss America got rid of the swimsuit.
Yeah.
But does the Miss Universe pageant still have a swimsuit?
Miss Universe has always been seen as the kind of the more risque.
Oh, sorry. Well,
former
that would
President
make me...
Trump used to own the Miss Universe.
Okay,
pageant.
well, that might make me tune out if I was going to see men in their bathing suits.
That's right.
Women's bathing suits.
You don't just get to see men dressed as women, but you get to see them act like whores. So there's that. I mean, who isn't going to click on that?
There isn't a tucking bathing suit that's going to conceal it enough that makes me want to watch. I think that's probably why people are tuning out. Nobody wants to see that.
I certainly don't. As Tyrion Rose Mandelberg from Newsbusters put it so succinctly, nope.
Probably put it better than I did.
First of all, it's run by a tranny, and you and I both know things don't tend to go well when delusional people are in charge.
That's right.
Reading from the Newsbuster write-up.
I love it.
In July, the Netherlands announced their winner, a dude with a ton of makeup and a tight dress. Not only is the Miss Netherlands winner not the fairest of all in the Netherlands, but he's also a man.
Right.
It's really, to sum things up, again, not my words, just reading from the Newsbuster write-up, it's really a no-brainer that Miss Universe is failing financially. I wouldn't support an organization that allows men to lie, cheat, and steal titles from perfectly eligible, more beautiful, and more qualified girls any day.
Yep.
But you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, those are my words as well. I'll take them.
Yes, absolutely.
543. Well, great news. The city of San Francisco government has finally heard the demands of their citizens, their taxpayers. They have finally said, all right, fine. We understand that we are here to serve you, the people of San Francisco, the upstanding citizens of our state and our nation, and our taxpayers, the people who pay the bills around here. We will now clean up the streets of the homeless. And we are going to, in fact, we're going to clean the streets of all the human urine and defecation, all the things that have happened on the streets, because we owe it to the people of San Francisco. Here, actually, wait, it's actually not for the people of San Francisco. Here, listen to this report from the local Fox network station.
While San Francisco is in the spotlight for the Asia Pacific Economic Conference, city leaders are making sure the city shines.
Tourism is our business here in San Francisco, and we need to focus on making sure that the tourist dollars still come back.
Caltrans repaving major roadways like the Harrison Street off-ramp from the I-80. BART doubling down by deep cleaning their stations overnight more often.
The city had gotten a little bit dingy over time.
Scrubbing and power washing is happening all over the city.
Yeah, the bottom of my shoes look clean.
It's noticeable how clear the streets look and how few homeless encampments there are on major thoroughfares.
Having been a longtime resident in the Bay Area, you just naturally start to wonder of houseless folks being displaced.
Public Works is installing decorative crosswalks in North Beach and Chinatown, and the Webster Street pedestrian bridge in Japantown was recently repainted. The Yerba Buena Gardens at the Moscone Center are decked out with new colorful landscaping and murals, paid for by the Clean California grant, just in time for the 20,000 high-profile CEOs and heads of state coming into town next week.
Wait, let's be clear here, because they're all talking about, it's all these heads of state. It's the Asian Pacific Conference. They've had other conferences, international conferences. No, the difference here is the chairman of the Communist Party in Beijing, the authoritarian communist dictator, who is the overlord of slave labor and mass imprisonment and ethnic cleansing of the Uyghurs. Xi Jinping is in town. And we got to make sure we acquiesce and clean up the city for Xi Jinping. You citizens, you taxpayers, screw you. It'll go right back to normal when the communist is gone.
And you remember when for the Beijing Olympics, what I find so fascinating is for the Beijing Olympics, the Chinese government did this. They cleared out these slums. They jailed people. They disappeared people before the Beijing Olympics, all in order to make it look like a clean city. And here, California officials are doing that very same thing. It's so chilling. Yeah. But of course, again, it's so enraging to know that San Franciscans have had to live with this. But then Xi walks in, a tyrant, a dictator, and we clean it all up. It shows the government in California can do it. They just choose not to.
That's the bottom line. I've been screaming from the rooftops, Trevor, enforce the law. There are laws against homeless living on the streets. There are laws against drug addicts doing their business and shooting up on the streets. There's laws against open prostitution happening on the sidewalks of your city. There's laws against intimidating and bullying private innocent citizens just trying to walk down the sidewalk. And what we're told, we have to be compassionate to our unhoused neighbors. We can't do that. We can't just take them and we can't arrest them for being poor. It's like, you're not arresting them for being poor. Right. That's so insulting to poor people who don't pee on the sidewalk and sleep and live on the sidewalk. It's not even sleeping on the sidewalk. It's living on the sidewalk.
That's right.
They're literally setting up their homes and their businesses right there on the sidewalks, and the business is illegal. It's drug dealing.
Yep.
And we can't do anything about that. They have a constitutional right. No, they don't have a constitutional right in any way whatsoever. And if you focused on enforcing the law, you would go ahead and fight it. Let their lawyers take you all the way to the Supreme Court. But they have no interest in it. They had no interest in cleaning up the streets and making it safe for everyday Americans who live in San Francisco, and for senior citizens who were terrified to walk back to their little apartment on their fixed income. They had no interest in doing anything about this, but they got super duper motivated to make sure the place looked good for Xi freaking Jinping.
That's right. And look, Gavin's going to run. He's going to run for president, not this time, next time. The audacity of the Democrats. There's no shame. There's no, this was a really big political mistake. No, there's none of that. He will be forgiven. He will run. He will lie about his record, and everybody will memory hold this. The mainstream media will memory hold this. This won't be part of, you can't do anything without reminding. They'll forget this. That is the state of the mainstream.